Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we're going to be rewiring this little brass chandelier, which has some interesting hardware. Now, I believe this is British, basically just based on the style, and others I've seen that are a little similar to it. It's all brass. It has Edison sockets in it. And when I first saw this, I thought it would probably hold chimneys, sort of like what you see in kerosene lamps, which would be unusual on a British light fixture, because that's more of an early American style motif you see in American chandeliers. And it doesn't have glass at all. It has this brass shell like this as a reflector. Now, for this kind of a setup, where the socket is down inside this cup where you can't get to the wire terminals, you would expect to see a hickey socket, which is a socket with this little bracket on the bottom of it. It's attached by a screw. You install the hickey down in here, and then you can pull the wires up, install them, push it back down, and fasten it on. But that's not how this is made. What we've got here on the bottom, a little ornamental nut, half like that, which exposes a screw. Undo it, and the socket comes out, and it's a regular candelabra socket. And what they have here is a piece of hardware with this round bottom on it, and it matches the bottom of the cup. So what they've done is they figured out a way to mount a socket in here with 1, 2, 3 pieces of hardware. Now, before I start the wiring, there's a problem I've got to address, that some of these arms are loose. They screw in right here at this little piece. And the obvious solution would be just to turn it until it's tight, but I can't do it that way. So the solution is I've got to make those threads somehow tighter. Now, they make chemicals, which are adhesives, called thread lock. This is blue, despite the fact that it's in a red bottle. And this is red. Like that. The difference is the blue will set the threads so that they can be undone with just regular tools. The red is going to set a bond so tight that you'll actually have to heat this to get it loose. And that's what I want. So I'm just going to make sure I get a good coat of red thread sealer all over these. Put some on the threads as well. And I can turn it in. Like that. And when it sets it, it's going to be nice and tight. I'll go around, check the rest of these, let it sit for about a half an hour. Then I can handle it without having to worry about all these things coming loose again. Now we have an application where the blue thread lock is appropriate. Now, running the wires is pretty straightforward. I just push it down this pipe and pull it up so I'll have enough room to work. Now, more blue thread lock for these pieces. And this is critical because pieces like this tend to come loose when someone is changing a bulb, and you don't want this socket turning around inside the cup. That would be very bad. I will now begin the sermon of the socket. This little speech I make in every video about lighting because it's that important. It starts right here when I strip this wire back. Wire that is used for lighting is multi-stranded. And that means there's probably about 20 little small wires here. I'll twist them tight together. Now, the National Electrical Code says that stranded wires cannot be put underneath screw terminals. If you do that, they just simply splay out, they'll get loose, they get hot, and it will greatly shorten the life of your light fixture. And so, in order to not have multi-stranded wires, I use my soldering iron to put a drop of solder on each one. Okay, now it's working. And I put it just on the tip. And I can put it underneath that screw with no worries that it's going to come loose. Next, we have a brass screw and a silver screw. All the wiring sold for lighting in the United States or North America, that is two pieces like this. One side the insulation is smooth and the other side has ridges. If you can't see them, you can still feel them. And the way that works is the smooth side always goes to the brass screw, and the ridge side always goes to the silver screw. You wrap it around it clockwise so that when you tighten the screw, it pulls the wire under the screw instead of pushing it out. Now do the same thing to the other side. I'm ready to install this socket in the cup. Now I'm not putting the blue on here because that's not really where any of the stress is. That little screw is what holds the socket in. I get this down nice and snug and it will stay there forever. 4 more and this job's almost done. The trunk wire, just run down the pipe down here to this piece, the hickey, and bring it back up to here where we're going to make our connection. Now this is another point where the difference between the wire with the ridges and the smooth wire makes a difference. And when you're working with this many wires all in such a small space, sometimes it's hard to be able to tell which one is which. So I go back, find each smooth wire, and make a black stripe on it so that when I've got them all bundled up together, I can tell which is which. Now I've got all the smooth wires bundled together along with the smooth wire from the trunk wire, and I'm going to solder them. All connections in the Secret Underground Laboratory are soldered. Don't use wire nuts, and certainly don't twist the wires together and tape them up. The solder I'm using here is rosin core solder, which is for electrical work. They have another kind, it's called acid core. The rosin is basically a chemical detergent which makes sure that all oxides are washed off of the wire so that we'll get a good bond between the solder and the wires. Acid works just as well, but the problem with acid is it doesn't go away. It stays there. And so you have wires start to corrode and basically turn to dust in quite a short time. Now I finish off the connection by covering it in shrink tubing, which, as you can see, it shrinks when it gets hot. And I fold it over, put another piece here on the tip, and hit it one more time, and that gives me a double layer over the end of the wire. One last detail to take care of. piece slides on just like that. And the original top cap is split. And the reason that happened is that when the loop was tightened down, there was nothing underneath here to hold it, and it just simply spread apart. The customer has another chandelier identical to this one, and it's in a little rougher shape, so she wanted the part taken off of it. And to prevent this one from splitting, I've got a washer underneath it, so that when we tighten it down, it will be braced and won't flex and bend and split like that did before. One little bit of blue thread lock. And everything is nice and tight. Now my final judgment on this unusual hardware, this strange way of holding a socket in a candle cup, is I'm not really all that happy about it. Basically what we have is a screw with this diameter at the bottom holding all of this. In the future, if a light bulb gets stuck in the socket, it could take quite a bit of effort to wrench it loose, and the bulb is so much bigger, it's a matter of leverage. It would be very easy for this socket to come loose and start unscrewing, even with the blue thread lock on it. So that's definitely a downside. This is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and I thank you for sitting through this video on wiring this unusual chandelier. I would really appreciate it if you would like to subscribe. Any questions or comments on this video or anything else we do here in the lab, furniture repair, lighting repair, general philosophy, animal husbandry, whatever you want to know about, I've probably got an answer. So again, thank you for watching, and hope to see you next week.